Would you rather own 100% of a little grape or 10 to 30% of a massive watermelon? Welcome to the Nine Doors Down Show, where we discuss anything and everything about commercial real estate and investing. Let's get it.
Nine Doors Down.
John Lopez.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Tony Rose.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Anthony Pimentel.
Educated capital raising, networking.
Nine doors down. Nine doors down.
This is called a show.
All right, so we are very excited to bring on today's featured guest. His name is Adam Sypniewski from Midland Trust. We've done several transactions with Adam, and if it's anyone who needs an SD custodian, Adam is the first name that Anthony and I thinks of. So Adam, he's a managing director at Midland Trust. He has spent over 15 years simplifying the alternative investment process. He has assisted thousands of investors, advisors, and private investment issuers with their self-directed IRA needs, and currently heads up Midland's private fund custody service offering. One of his primary roles is new business development for Midland's self-directed IRA service, working with various investment sponsors and investors to accomplish their goals. He specializes in private placements like real estate syndications, hedge funds, digital assets, and private equity. Adam was born and raised in the Chicagoland area and currently resides in Naperville, Illinois with his wife and two daughters. He holds a BA in business from Michigan State University. So listeners, let's welcome our guest, Adam Sypniewski.
Hey, let's go. Hey guys, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, John. Really appreciate that intro. I'm really excited to be here and get into it and chop it up with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we first met each other, this is what maybe a year ago or early this year. I forget what it was. Anthony and I, we actually spoke to several different SD IRA custodians before meeting you. And I would just say the experience that we've had with you, because we ended up not going with those other guys, has been very fast, very efficient. And it's gone to the point where, you know, some of our other fund buddies, we've actually, you know, referred them your way because we knew that their fund will be taken care of, their investors will be taken care of. So in advance, man, we just want to say thank you, man.
You guys are more than welcome, and thank you. I'm so grateful that we had the chance to connect, John and Anthony, whenever, like you said, many months ago, and have had the opportunity to do some business together. And I've had the opportunity to serve your investors and make some connections with folks in your network. And for that, I'm deeply grateful. And like I said, really excited to get into more of it with you guys today. It's like I said, it's a privilege to be able to work with guys that are putting together deals like you, and your investors have been more than delightful to meet and help and serve. So look forward to more of that, hopefully in 2024 and beyond.
Oh, I'm sure it's just gonna grow exponentially, man. So absolutely. I was listening to I was reading an article last week, and there was a number that like it just really popped out to me, and then I was like, this is when I was like, I told Anthony, I was like, I think we should talk to Adam about hopping on. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I haven't validated this myself, but I read that currently the U.S. is sitting on $14 trillion total in 401k and, you know, as SD capital, where I don't know the percentage, but I'm sure it's a large whopping number where people don't really know that they can invest that capital in real estate.
Right. So I've heard of this stat, and actually, I was at a multifamily conference in June of this year of 2023, and it was funny. I actually made the comment to my colleague. It's like, you know, I was speaking there and I said, yes, $14 trillion in IRA accounts today. And that's the figure that we know. Well, there was, you know, another operation that was at the same conference said 11 trillion in IRAs. And then I talked to a CPA who said there was 28 trillion in IRAs. So whatever it is, guys, it's a ton of money that are in IRA accounts. And I say IRA accounts because that's important when we're talking, you know, and setting up this conversation, John, because IRAs are what we call portable. And when we talk about self-direction, we want to talk about portable retirement account balances, which IRAs are, which means that, folks, if you're in an IRA today, you can move that to another IRA to do other types of investing and get into the self-direction stuff that we're talking about. So if you're an investor, if you're a deal maker, to know that all this capital is sitting in IRA accounts that can be brought into a passive real estate deal or more active deal, whatever it might be. We just need to know, we need to raise awareness that capital is out there for not only the investors, but for the deal makers as well.
So how do we do that? Like, because I think we would be serving the population much better. I mean, I don't care if they, if they invest in like one of our friends' investments or even ours, but just the fact that people can know and have the abundance mindset that they can invest in other, in other investment routes such as real estate. How did we get to this point? Why is there a roadblock in knowledge, and how do we improve that, or just overcome that roadblock of that perception that people just has to leave that money in there?
Well, I think the passion and the knowledge that, folks like Nine Doors Down are bringing to the market are helping, and arenas like this where we're putting together content to raise awareness that this type of investment availability is out there. I mean, folks don't even, you're out here, promulgating the message of real estate investing and empowering investors to understand that they can invest in real estate. Using your retirement account to do that is another kind of awareness hurdle, like you said. So we're trying to promulgate this message, but it's also finding the capital raisers, the deal makers, since we're not putting together deals ourselves, as you know, John and Anthony. We're trying to facilitate businesses like yours that are raising capital from high net worth individuals and the like, or family and friends, and it's we got to this point, John, probably from a lack of awareness and kind of this diaspora of information in the form of social media and the ability for people to just put out their knowledge on Twitch, on podcasts, on streams, on Reddit. All this knowledge is being, it's anxiously being sought, and it's just upon us, to keep on putting out this message that, hey, your retirement account, yes, it's to save up money for your retirement, but you can build a lot more wealth and build a lot better lifestyle if you're aware of some of these available opportunities that not everybody knows about. And that particularly what I mean in this sense is, John, investing in real estate, investing in syndications, investing in private investment opportunities, something that's off market, not the S&P 500, not the NASDAQ, but something that that you are close to, and might be tangible or not, but something that you as an investor might have some sort of passion or knowledge about. And we're trying to get this message out there that, hey, you can do that directly and in your taxable account, but not everybody is flush with cash these days, especially with where the economy is at. So, hey, let's talk about your retirement account and the wealth that you have in there. Because here's another stat, John. And again, I don't have the exact cited source on this one, but it's something like 70% of an American's investable wealth is within a retirement account. So think about that. So if you're raising capital and you're only appealing to individual investors and the cash that they have in their checking account that they're going to get taxed on, well, you're missing out on what is that? Like 2.5 times more capital that might be in their IRA, or in a retirement account. So that's why, again, we're promulgating this message, trying to raise awareness. And John, to answer your question specifically, I don't know that there's a specific magic bullet, but it's talking to folks like you and your colleagues and your investors that help us get closer to that, getting over that awareness hurdle about using your retirement money to invest in real estate and the like.
Welcome to the course on raising capital for investments. In this course, we'll cover the following topics. 1, analyzing your investment strategy. 2, discovering potential investors. 3, crafting your pitch. 4, securing your investment. 5, our cheat code. We'll round out the program with our very own cheat code for getting in front of investors and being ready to pitch your investment opportunities. Take action today. Visit schoolofninedoorsdown.com and learn to attract capital.
Yeah, I gotta chime in here real quick.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, man. I appreciate it. So maybe we'll take a step back. Can you give us some kind of background on and basically on solo 401k as compared to like a self-directed IRA? And then what kind of IRA accounts or 401ks can people use to transfer into a self-directed or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah. So even taking a step back from that, Anthony, is like, so let's talk about IRAs. I think they were founded by the ERISA Act in 1974. So these have been around for a number of years, for 50 plus years, or going on 50 years. And it's since the dawn of IRAs, we've been able to invest in almost anything under the sun. Since ERISA was passed in 74, there's only two things that we cannot invest in, and that's life insurance and collectibles. So things like, baseball cards, vintage cars, bottles of wine. Point being that these rules were set up a long time ago. Again, we're just still building awareness. So when you talk about solo Ks and what type of IRAs can we self-direct, a lot of these things have been around for a while, but you're right, Anthony, that just not a lot of people know about them and know about the rules. So first, let's just take IRAs versus 401ks. Okay, so IRAs are individual accounts. They're individual retirement annuities, or however you want to call them. But they're basically, Adam, I have my own IRA. My wife also has her own IRA. They're individual accounts. We're identified by our Social Security number. 401ks, we think of usually group plans, right? So like Midland Trust, I have a 401k with Midland Trust. I'm a member in that group plan. However, if I was a self-employed individual with no employees, I could set up a 401k for myself, which is also called a solo 401k or an individual 401k. Now, we can self-direct those accounts as well. We can self-direct anything that's like an individualized account. So, the solo K that Anthony brings up, the IRAs that we're talking about, health savings accounts, education savings accounts, those are all things we can self-direct. But when we look at IRA versus 401k, again, we're only able to self-direct with a 401k when it's our own business and we don't have employees. So you business owners in the audience that are listening here today, the solo 401k is what most folks call the Cadillac of, self-directed plans. And because unlike an IRA, it just has, or I shouldn't say unlike an IRA, but I should say, more than an IRA, it has some features that you just can't accomplish in an IRA. Things like lending. We cannot take a loan against our IRA. For any of those listening, we can take a loan from our 401k, and that still is the case with a solo K. So that's like one feature right off the bat. So if you're, again, a self-employed individual and you don't have employees, you should be looking at this 401k because you can lend to yourself. You can also contribute on a higher basis. So, IRAs, again, these are individual accounts. The IRS just approved cost of living adjustments for next year. We can only contribute $7,000 a year to an IRA. That's not going to get us to a lot of these, investment minimums we need in the real estate, the passive real estate investment world, or accredited only offerings. You can't do that $7,000 a year. You need $50K, you need $100K to get into some of these deals. So more often we see folks accumulate a balance in a plan like a 401k. And with a solo K, you can contribute not only as an individual, as an employee of your business, but also as an employer. So, whereas IRA $7,000 annually to a contribution limit, solo 401ks, you're up near $60,000 next year to contribute into that plan. And again, you can accumulate that balance, and then it's portable as a solo K. So again, for your business owners, that's a much more exotic plan in some regards, that you have more features to it. So I think for those of you that are eligible, there's a lot more that we can get into with the solo Ks, Anthony, that I think are very attractive for your business owners. But we can certainly compare and contrast those to IRAs and how those get started. Did I answer your question there, Anthony? Let me take a step back and make sure that I answer your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah,
IRAs.
I just want to make sure our listeners understand, the difference between because I'll be honest, back in 2016, I had no clue about this stuff. I only knew I can borrow from my 401k.
Yeah.
But when I left my company, my old employer, I actually moved my old 401k into a IRA or another IRA account. And then I found out about this solo 401k. Then I ended up moving that into a solo 401k. And that's what I used to basically get into some of my first few deals where I loaned myself. I borrowed from my solo 401k to go buy and flips and duplexes and did the burst strategy and kind of just grew my wealth through that. And then, now we're here in multifamily. But man, it's such a powerful tool that you just, if you don't know, man, you're missing out.
Yeah, well, then let's dig into that, Anthony. Like when you left that job in 2016, a tight labor market, coming out of the pandemic, people had multiple jobs. So a lot of people started up these 401ks, and unlike you, didn't do anything with it. They left it at their old employer. And, as an investor, as a deal maker, you got to think about those delinquent 401ks, because that's AUM potentially for a deal. Whether, you're thinking, oh, hey, I built up that balance at that gig that I worked for, 5 years and left. I never rolled that 401k into my new company's 401k. For us W-2 folks, that's how we accumulate our wealth, is getting that company match in the 401k. And if you don't roll it into your new company's plan, you can roll that into a self-directed IRA and start getting into 9 doors down or whatever you might be looking at. And that's when we talk about how we start up a self-directed IRA, Anthony, that's probably the most common way that we see is, people have these old 401ks. And again, it has to be old for the audience there. If you're currently working and you're under 59 and a half, that 401k is probably untouchable until you leave that job or you cross that magic age. We're just, these plan administrators want to keep your money in the plan. So if it's an active 401k, there might be some opportunity to get it out of there penalty free, but chances are they have to stay in that 401k till you have a separation of service. But when you do have that separation of service, that is probably one of the most common ways we see folks start up these self-directed accounts, because again, they've been contributing to this plan, been matched by their employer, probably had some good market activity, and then they go to cash, and then they roll out into a self-directed IRA, and then they're free and clear to start looking up deals. And that's probably the most common way. Second most common way we see folks get started is they already have an IRA today, say at Schwab or Fidelity, and they can't accomplish multifamily investments. They can't do private lending. They can't landlord or do any of those alternative investment strategies within their account at the large brokerage firms. So the second way we see folks set up their account most commonly, Anthony, is when they transfer from an existing IRA elsewhere. They've accumulated 6 figures of wealth in an account at Schwab. They might peel off a piece, 100K, 50K, and bring that over to an IRA, a self-directed IRA, to get into one deal or a couple of deals or something like that. So just giving the audience something to consider when you think about setting up. It's all about what do you have today? How portable is my retirement money today?
So let me jump in here. I already know that for many of our listeners, this is going over their heads. So I want to peel this back and simplify it. And let's just speak to a salesperson in the cell phone industry, because that's the industry I come from, right?
Cool.
We'll take 2 scenarios. One of them is an existing employee, has a 401k, right? How do they position that capital, go towards, say, a syndication? And then the second scenario is someone who just got laid off, right? So they no longer have that employee contributing 401k. How would they position that money to go into a multifamily syndication?
Yeah, so let's take that first scenario first. You said it's an active employee with,
yes,
he's working at the cell phone company. He's been contributing to his 401k, and he's getting, a 3% match or whatever they honor. Okay, he's accumulating that wealth. If that individual is not 59 and a half, chances are we're not going to be able to access that cash, John. So unless there's the one caveat, that you can, and for those listening, your first stop is to talk to your 401k person at work, your HR person. If you're actively working and actively contributing, just talk to your HR person, talk to whoever covers your plan, your 401k plan. Ask them if they can facilitate an in-service rollover. That is the sexy piece of 401k plan governance that would allow you to get out of 401k while active. It is not very common. In my 15 years of doing this, I've seen it a handful of times, John. So it's not very common. Maybe it's growing in popularity, but that's really the only way. Individual one, while he's actively working and under 59 and a half, to get access to that 401k money. It's called an in-service rollover. Again, you'd have to ask your HR or go through your plan documents to find out if your plan allows for that, because every 401k plan is different. They all have their own governance, their own plan documents. The second example, someone got laid off, John. You said someone's been working for a while, they got laid off from their job. While unfortunate, their 401k balance is now portable. They've had that separation of service, whether they're 59 and a half or not, they can roll that now inactive 401k into an IRA. There's no penalty. There's no tax liability there. Again, 59 and a half or not, doesn't matter. We do what's called a direct rollover from a plan to an IRA. That means the money goes straight from the plan. Maybe they send the individual a check, I might get the 401k check from Fidelity in the mail, but it's not made out to me, and I certainly do not cash it personally. That's what we want to stay away from, folks. So if you've been laid off or you've left a job or you're trying to roll over your 401k, if at all possible, don't have them send those funds to you. That's what's called an indirect rollover or a 60-day rollover. And while not the end of the year, you can only do, or end of the world, you can only do those once a year, once every 12 months. So, I'll give you an example. Say that person left a job, they had $50,000 accumulated in the 401k, and say, they cashed out and they were in a pinch looking for a job. They had that 50K sent to them and deposited in their own personal bank account. Okay, that is now a distribution because you've taken ownership of those funds. You have 60 days to get it back into a retirement account without penalty. But again, you can only do that once every 12 months. So if you've done it previously in the last little bit, you're out of luck. And that all that amount is going to be taxed. And if you're under the age of 59 and a half, it's going to be an extra 10% early withdrawal penalty tax. So that's what happens in the case of you taking the money personally. So you want to make sure that if you've lost your job or you've had a separation of service, you have an old 401k, folks, you want to try to focus on a direct rollover to get it, send it directly to the plan. Again, if they've sent you the check, that's okay if you hold a check. Just don't deposit it.
Yes.
Send it to your IRA. Send it to your IRA custodian. No harm, no foul. You can hold the physical check. You just can't deposit it in the bank. So just send it on to your IRA custodian. Get into the IRA. No penalty, no liability. And then, like you said, John, they're free and clear to start real estate syndication investing. They can call up their IRA custodian and say, "Hey, Adam, I'm looking at this, the self-storage deal or car wash, whatever strategy they're looking at." And then we'll get the paper, the deal documents and start doing it with their IRA with the account owner present. So it's more or less, we want to make sure that 401k balance is portable, meaning we've had a separation of service over 59 and a half in most cases.
Okay. And for our listeners, just to summarize this again to what Adam was saying, you just got to let go from your employer. You now have the 401k. The 401k, you could work with guys such as Adam, convert that to an SD IRA, right? Because the main thing is you don't want to deposit that capital into your bank account. There will be tax implications. So you want that third party entity. In this case, it could be Midland Trust. Yeah. You work with guys like that. They secure that capital from the old 401k, and now you have the freedom to select which investment routes you want to go with. Does that sound right?
That's spot on, John. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, wow. I mean, we could go into several different tangents with this direction, man. But I know working with you guys versus some other guys that we work with, those other guys, it's taking about 7 days. 14 days just to get that conversion from a 401k to an SD IRA. In your guys' scenario, I could have sworn that I woke up the following morning and then the capital was already issued. How critical is a timeline in these scenarios? Is it okay to wait 2 to 3 weeks for the capital switch over, or is it best for the individual to work with someone that moves with speed and efficiency?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, John. And yeah, this is a process, and alternative investing in general can be cumbersome. And I think there's a lot of thought leaders here that are making this process more simple. We've had technology come into the space that makes things like filling out a subdoc a lot easier. There's a lot of providers out there specifically for syndicators that make that process easy. And just things like DocuSign and Adobe Sign, all those e-signature processes that have sped the industry up and hopefully produce less paper, right? And paperless. But when you talk about time, John, yes, the more time we have, the better in any case. But when it comes to self-direction, the overarching point that I would make, John, is that you want to have a deal in mind before you embark on that journey. When I talk about Midland Trust, or at least what I tell my folks that I'm talking with, or maybe getting set up, is that wait until you have a deal in mind. Wait until that deal is about 3 weeks or less out from closing. We can get it done in that amount of time. That's not the issue. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that in self-direction and self-directed IRAs with Midland Trust and most of our competitors, those accounts are used specifically to invest in the private investment space, right? So things like funds, things like syndications, things like real estate and precious metals. But we don't accommodate public investing. So mutual funds, options, equities, things like that. You cannot hold those directly in a Midland Trust account. So any money that you're bringing to us, you should know what 9 doors down deal you're going into, or you should know what piece of real estate you're buying with a closing date in mind, because any money that's not going into that deal is not being put to work for you with a self-directed IRA custodian. We don't pay out interest on our accounts. We don't offer public equities and securities like that. So you're coming to us to invest specifically in the deal. So you don't want to come too early where your money's sitting on the sidelines, but you give us enough time to execute the deal, right? And in most cases, John, that's going to be 2 weeks or less. It's not commonly going to be, in a matter of days, because there's certain IRS rules, but we can get your IRA set up and we can get your money requested from your existing IRA, or give you the opportunity to execute that rollover the same day. So when you talk about setting up and having the cash available, that's usually happening in the first couple of days of the account being opened, and then we can make an investment that 7th calendar day from account opening, which that's about the fastest you can get because of IRS rules. But is a metric that we track because, John, as you mentioned, we are passionate about that at Midland Trust and getting our clients set up with IRAs and into their deals as quickly as possible, not only for the investors, but for their deal sponsors as well. It's a metric we track. And right now we're at about 10 calendar days from IRA open to private placement made. So we're pretty proud of that. And we're always trying to make that metric a little bit, quicker, a little bit faster, but it's always going to depend on where the cash is coming from. If you're transferring from an existing IRA today, folks, that's going to be probably quicker than a 401k rollover. The previous example I gave, John, of the 401k check, right? If we're holding a check, we knew that check had to be mailed to us. So that's probably a number of days. And then we have to mail it on to Midland, and that's going to be another few days. So just by nature of 401k rollovers, those can sometimes take a little bit longer because a check might be involved. But in any case, guys, we're, whether you're coming from a 401k or an IRA, in most cases, if you're going into a private placement, we're going to have that done in a matter of 2 weeks or less. And if you're coming from an IRA, closer to 1 week. So that's how I would encapsulate the timing element to this.
That's awesome, Adam. Here's another scenario that I want to bring up because I see this. So there's more and more, there's career paths where the employer is not even offering a 401k. In those scenarios, we're not CPA advisors, we're not tax professionals, but from your experience, Adam, what's something that you can recommend those guys? Like how can they start building up their wealth if they don't have an employer contributing 401k?
Yeah. So if you're not a W-2 guy, obviously it's the solo 401k, it's the SEP IRA too. We didn't really talk about the SEP, but that's another high contribution plan for business owners out there. Because there is really no way to get non-cash assets into a retirement account beyond, we have to contribute cash to retirement accounts. That's a rule. So you can't, like in kind, I don't want to like in kind contribute, my house to my IRA or something like that. You just can't. So it's always a cash contribution. Even with plans, like we contribute cash to the plan, the employer matches with cash, and then we buy, target date funds or whatever our plan allows us to do. For the self-employed individuals, for the folks that are non-W-2, you got to be looking up, SEP IRAs, solo 401ks. It's going to depend on how you want to set up your business, and that might come by way of an advisor, a CPA, something like that can tell you what plan makes the most sense for you. But and in your future plans, we talked about lending earlier, John. If you plan to lend from your plan, if you might need to lend from your plan, that's going to make you go the 4 solo K route as opposed to SEP IRA route. But again, if you're looking to accumulate a large retirement account balance quick, really the only way is the American way, which is owning your business, starting up your own business. That's,
Amen.
there's no other like shortcut to accumulating a quick amount of wealth in your retirement account without having that cash there.
Yeah, just to add to that too, is like, have you seen like a huge uptrend in the last, I would say, 5 years on, this SD IRA? Like more people are, since they're getting education, are you seeing an uptick because of the fact that, people just don't trust the equities market anymore? It's so, a tweet here, a social media post here, can send the stock tanking, Yeah. And have you seen more people kind of move away from the equities and do more hard assets, such as, like you said, there's real estate? I'm a big silver, gold guy too, but maybe give us some feedback on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Anthony. And I think it's kind of hard to look back the last 5 years without, the pandemic being the headline. And I will say that our best year on record was 2021. So that year kind of not right when the pandemic hit, but post-pandemic, when there was a lot of liquidity, rates were still low. People were using all that cash to gobble up assets. I really feel like, and that's when we saw a lot of folks come in and we saw a lot of syndications, a lot of hedge funds, because that's part of self-direction too. Is we get these kind of managed strategies. So I'm trying to like parse out the hedge fund strategies, which are a market correlated event, a market correlated strategy. What do we see the hard assets? Well, we don't do a ton of precious metals, but I know that earlier this year in the industry, in our self-directed IRA industry, is probably the hottest it's been for metals in a while, because we saw rising prices and the like. But we focus more here on Midland on the private placements. And I'd say from 2021, and we've kind of been flat since 2021, but we're starting to see that interest come back up now that inflation's coming down. And I think there's kind of like a refi event that needs to take place next year. And we'll probably see syndication come back really strong after that. At least what we see with our specific clientele, Anthony. But when we look at like on a macro level, 2021, that was a big crypto year too. We saw a lot of folks going into crypto. So, in terms of a macro, what we're seeing, the passive strategies were really big in 2021, and they've kind of flatlined, and we hope to see some more growth as we got to get out of this economic tightening cycle that we've been in since, last June or whatever. But again, I don't have visibility over the entire market, Anthony, but that's what we see. We kind of stayed away from the crypto, but still got a lot of it. We did stay away from the metals because that's a little bit of a specialization we don't have as a custodian. You have to have a depository to hold the metals, and we don't have our own, but we have affiliates and things like that. But for whatever reason, it's not our strategy. However, I know that broadly, we kind of missed an opportunity here at Midland earlier this year because of the volume we've seen, or the activity we've seen go towards metals. So. I think there is trepidation around the market, particularly right now. I mean, we've heard about an oncoming recession for a number of months. Depending on if you think that's still going to materialize or not, that's that's up to you. But that's going to drive investor behavior, right? People are going to go into more tangible assets. I just actually read an article this morning. There's a building over in River North here in Chicago, and it's right by the Wrigley building. I can't quite remember; it's escaping me now. But maybe you guys read this article. It was sold, 2 years ago for like 138 million, and now it's going for like 70 a square foot this morning. And those types of discounts, those types of discounted assets are going to be scooped up by our type of clientele because they find those types of deals. They find the people that are putting together those deals. So I'm really looking forward to. Yes, I know there's going to be some tightening by a lot of people, but it's going to be a great buying opportunity for a lot of folks here as we look to 2024 and beyond. So that's kind of where we've been the last 5 years, Anthony. Hard for me to see the whole market, but that's what we've seen, and we're really excited about what we see going forward because I think we will be able to. You ask me in 5 years from now what we've seen, from 2023 to 2028, Anthony, and I'll be able to tell you a lot more specifically what we've seen as opposed to the past 5 years.
That's great, man. So we're I know we're getting short on time right now, but Adam, what does the painting of Adam and Midland Trust, what does it look like 5 years from now?
Well, some exciting news in terms of Midland Trust is that we've actually been acquired and backed by a larger firm in our space, Equity Trust. They're kind of one of the old, what I would call an OG in the space, and they've focused more on like the real retail investors. So the folks like the metals that we were talking about in the last clip with Anthony. Equity Trust killed it on metals early part of this year. A lot of their clientele is doing metals and hard real estate. Where we have focused more on the private placement. So we feel like their resources are going to allow us to keep on building out our technology to meet the demands of syndicators and other private placement issuers. I see, our painting, including partnerships with other service providers in your space that help with investor relations and communications. That is something that I see kind of becoming more part of what we're doing. But ultimately, we're going to be the premier provider in the real estate syndication space and commercial real estate space because we know and believe in that space and the way that those folks raise capital. We feel that IRAs are the best tool for that crowd, as opposed to, maybe some private equity groups or hedge funds that might rely on institutional funding and institutional investors to accomplish their goals. Real estate syndications and commercial real estate folks tend to lean more on individual investors, and that's great for what we're trying to do. So we want to empower not only individual investors to find these returns outside of market, but also capital raisers to fund their deals more quickly and easily with the power of IRAs. And I hope, in 5 years, we're going to be doing that on a quicker basis. It might not even be 7 days at that time, John. It's going to be hopefully 3 or 4 if we can get our way with Congress and the like. But I think you're just going to see a more well-rounded, full-service operation by us to accommodate capital raisers and their individual investors.
That's great. All right. So next up is we're going to dive into our lightning round. This is where Anthony and we're just going to ask 2 or 3 super random questions. This is for our listeners to kind of get to know the not so professional and buttoned up side of Adam. But the first question that I have is, you're stuck on an island, but you do have your iPhone or your Android, but you could only load up one album to listen to over and over and over again on a secluded island. What is that album going to be in your headphones or the speakers?
Oh man, that is a good one. I'm on an island.
You're on an island. You have no one else around you, and you can only listen to one album.
Okay, Steely Dan, Asia.
Steely Dan, Asia. Is that the one with Peg?
Yes, that is the one with Peg. Peg's probably one of my all-time favorite Steely Dan songs.
Dude, I love that song, man. So I don't know if you know this about me, Adam, but I'm a DJ. I actually have a routine to Steely Dan, Peg.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. That is seriously the trumpets, the horns in Peg are what turned me on to Steely Dan. I heard it when I was 16 years old, and I've been an enthusiast ever since. I know they get a rap for being for the music nerds, but that album, Michael McDonald singing back vocals, it's a great one.
That genre was what they call it now. They call it
yacht rock.
Yacht rock. Man.
So you guys, put on your boat shoes and pop your collar. You're ready to go.
So I got a buddy of mine who I golf with out here in Vegas, and so I went to high school with him out in Northern California. But we grew up listening to like rap and gangster rap and stuff. Okay. When we play golf, we literally just listen to yacht rock playlists on Spotify.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong, man. If I was going out to play, when I was playing, varsity football, I'd throw an Eminem in the headphones, and get pumped up, ready to go. But I'm a dad now. I'm an old guy. I just want to sit and have my drink and listen to some smooth, easy listening of Walter Becker and Donald Fagen.
That's a really good choice, Adam. All right, next up, Ant.
Yeah, hey man. So I'm not sure if you're a traveler, but if if you had an ideal place to travel, would it be tropical or maybe mountain area? And if so, where would it be?
That's a great question, Anthony. Me personally, I love the West and I love the mountains. And we had a chance to visit Boulder during the summer, Boulder and Breckenridge during the summer last year, my family and I. And that was, I'm not a skier. I'm more of a hiker and sights and just the wide open West and everything like that. So that was probably one of my all-time vacations. But however, if I have my wife with me, she's going to want to be on the beach. She's going to want to be, taking it easy, not hiking, having a drink in her hand. So it depends on my audience, Anthony. It depends on who I'm traveling with. So if I'm with me and the boys, we're going to go up hiking in the mountains and go to Fort Collins and, do their beer scene and all that. But if I'm with my wife, we would probably harken back to our honeymoon, which was, a lifetime ago now, but we went to Maui,
Maui, yeah.
And thoughts, with everything that happened there this year, that was right by where we stayed. I think that fire was in Lahaina. We stayed just south in Wailea and McKenna. And so that is, that it definitely is a bucket list to get back to Maui, specifically that resort beach area, the west side of Maui. So again, with my wife, I'm going there. If I'm with the boys, I'm going hiking and getting dirty and camping up in the mountains.
Yeah, you know what? My wife just got back last night from Maui. She was there. Yeah, she said that whole area that's had the fire is all pretty much blocked off.
Yeah.
So, but it's not as busy as it usually is. But that's awesome, man. But yeah, you're right. I think the mountains are more work. Like you actually got to put in work. I agree with your wife, man. I just want to sit, hang out by the beach, get some drinks and whatever.
Yeah. No, I think doing less is always more for my wife, particularly. So
yeah, I like that.
Happy wife, happy life, right? Guys?
Yeah.
All right. Last question.
Yeah.
Adam, what is your superpower, man?
What is my superpower? I think not making enemies. I don't think I'm, we all have egos and we all have like pride. I don't allow myself to get, I'm not a confrontational person, but I don't make enemies. I'm always here, if there's a situation that I can help, I'm going to try to, but I am never petty enough to keep myself from helping somebody that might benefit from my help. So I think that I've done a good job of keeping keeping myself in a good light with folks and being thought of as a help and not a hindrance to folks. And so I think that being able to sometimes swallow your pride and understand what's really bothering people and ask questions rather than, retorting with an attack or whatever it might be. I think that's, if I had to put my superpower into a soundbite, it would be that, John. I've never been asked that question. That's an awesome question.
So you like to build bridges and not burn them.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. I had a presentation when I was speaking to our company one time. It was all about building bridges between departments, and we're happy to meet you anywhere in between. But start taking that walk with me. And yeah, you're right. It's all about building bridges. Absolutely, John. 100%.
That's great. And that relationship building. Again, we've said this on previous podcasts. Not a lot of people realize that everybody has a starting point and everybody has an end goal. But what is that missing component in between? It's the people, man. Yeah. And the more relationships that you could bring along to your team, the more value you're going to bring to each other. And next thing you know, you're accomplishing much bigger goals than what you can do individually.
Absolutely. The power of people, man, the power of network. And that's why I'm, again, so grateful that you guys allow me to come on and have a good conversation and chop it up with you, because it's guys like you that I look forward to talking to, not only in these arenas but offline, months from now when you meet some LP that has questions or even not, just to catch up and see how stuff's been going. It's a people business. Investing is a people business. It's a relationship business. Know, like, trust, right? I mean, that's like every raiser I talk to. They want to know investors. They want them to like them, and then they get them to trust them. So know, like, trust. You'll be all right.
That's great, man. So for our listeners, how can they get a hold of you? Any social media handles, website, emails? This is your time to let them know that Midland Trust is the group that you want to work with.
Yeah, no, I absolutely appreciate it, John. So always reach out to me directly, adam@midlandtrust.com. Just like it sounds, just like it spells. Send me an email. Best way to get a hold of me. Adam, my first name, ADAM @MIDLANDTRUST.com. Adam@midlandtrust.com. You can also call or text me anytime, 312-767-6863. Again, 312-767-6863. I'm not a big social guy, but you'll find me on LinkedIn all over the place. I'm always promoting. I'm always talking about podcasts that I'm joining or panels that I'm speaking on. So follow me on LinkedIn. If you can find me, again, Midland Trust. I'm under Midland Trust, Adam Sypniewski. You'll find me anywhere you can find Midland. And again, yeah, I'm not on Insta, not on Facebook or nothing like that. I don't tweet. I might have a burner account that I'll keep to myself, John. But other than that, I think you guys just come to me directly, come to the human. You don't need to come to my profiles. Come to me, Adam@midlandtrust.com, and I'd love to help you guys.
Adam, thank you again for the value you provided for ourselves and our listeners on this episode. Again, just thank you so much. Knowledge and nuggets had to be shared. I know I'm gonna go back to my drawing board and try to take the notes that I jotted down and look further into it. But on that note, everyone, I just want to say thank you for listening again to the 9 Doors Down show with myself, John Lopez, and my co-host
Anthony Pimentel. Thank you so much.
And we out.
Peace.